All right. So I always find it helpful to share other students' work. I think that is the most helpful because you can see what other people did. Normally, I mean, I only taught this class one other time, and when I did, it was a much smaller class, and I really liked having students give the presentations in class. I just find that helpful. I don't think it's a waste of class time because we still had a lecture, but I just found that very helpful. Um, but we have so many in this class, we weren't able to do that. Now, Joe, I asked everybody else's permission for this, but I just have to share 2 minutes of your video here. All right, the blanket, Joe. That's a wonderful touch. It even looks like a Red Cross blanket. So, yeah, nice touch there. Good job. All right. Um, so the first thing I want to share is the role plays. And then we're going to look at a different partners to give feedback. So the feedback's not going to match the role plays, but it's okay to mix it up because I think, I chose role plays that I really like that actually went through some skills like breathing exercises with the client. And that's why I chose them. Not everybody did go through that. Um, but then, I like something different about another pair of students with the way they gave feedback. Like they gave some really critical feedback that could be helpful. It wasn't just you did a great job. So we're going to watch that. And then I also chose a different student's write up so you can see the write up as well. So they don't all match, but I kind of picked each one for different reasons. Um, so let's look at the write up first, I guess. Dun, dun. All right, so this is Hannah's and Madison's, and they even use a different color. And I like green. Green's for growth. So like if I had to like grade a paper, I don't use like red ink. There's an automatic defensiveness with like red ink. I always try to use green ink because green's for growth. Um, but um, you can see, so instead of just putting an X here, you need to uh, write out some type of it's brief. It's not a lot, but some type of feedback as to why uh, you chose that column. And this was some pretty good feedback. And then um, they gave a whole paragraph answer, for the different prompts. Now that the role play was over, please reflect on the obvious strengths and areas for improvement. And it wasn't just one or two sentences. It was a really nice, well thought out paragraph. And then for the shorter questions, they were still, you know, fairly decent length. And it's not just about the length, but, you know, I like to hear it's not just what skills were difficult. Like they talked about how it went and what could be improved upon. And I just think, if your partner reads that, it would be helpful to them. It's not just for me, it's for the partner as well. And then in the uh, other scales, they did the same thing. So it's pretty straightforward, but I did want to share and yeah. So let's watch one of the videos. Let's see which one I want to watch. We're going to watch Amanda's. All right, let me share.
Session of psychological first aid. We have Carrie here, who is 24-year-old woman in very early recovery from opioid dependence, about 30 to 45 days clean. And Carrie's family's home was destroyed by a propane explosion about 2 days ago. All of her family members are safe, which includes her mother, her father, and her younger brother, who is 19. Their family dog, Max, who is an 8-year-old golden retriever, is missing, and it's not quite sure whether Max is passed or if he has run away. All of her personal belongings, including recovery materials, clothing, journals, comfort items, everything was a complete loss for the entire family. They're currently staying at a hotel. She's staying in her own room, but with her family at the same place. And she's having some intense stress that may be threatening to her early recovery. She's really worried about her dog, but she has some supports through AA and NA, has been attending meetings, and is involved in some outpatient counseling. She's feeling really guilty about being upset about the dog more than anything, but is finding her way through some moments. She's concerned about finding some of her medications that she was taking, and she's presenting to the session openly at her own will. Hi, Carrie. My name is Amanda, and I'm a counselor here to provide support to you after the explosion. I'm here to listen in whatever way that I can. Is it okay that we talk for a while?
Hi, Amanda. Yes, that's okay.
Awesome. So, before we begin, one of the things that I like to do is just to check in and see how you're feeling right this moment. Is there anything that we can get to make you more comfortable, like a blanket or a glass of water?
I'm okay for right now, thank you.
Okay. I want you to know, first of all, we appreciate you spending time with us. Thank you for being willing to talk with me. I can't imagine how much you're feeling right now. I want you to know that anything that we talk about in this session is confidential, with the exception of a few things. For instance, if you're thinking about hurting yourself or anyone else, then we are going to make sure that we do whatever we can to keep everyone safe. But everything else that you share with me today is confidential. Do you have any questions about that?
Nope, I don't.
Okay. I want to make sure that you're feeling safe right now. From my understanding, I hear that you and your family are staying at a hotel. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, we're in a hotel currently.
Okay. How do you feel about staying there? Do you feel like it's safe? Is it in a safe area?
Yeah, the hotel's in a nicer area. It's secure and I feel pretty safe and comfortable here.
Okay. And the room that you're in, is it secure? Do you have any concerns with your safety or the environment that you're currently in?
Nope, I'm staying in a room by myself, but my parents and my brother are right next door to me, so I feel safe and secure where I'm at.
Okay. Let's talk about your basic needs for a moment. With everything that's gone on the past few days, do you have access to food?
I do, yes.
Okay. What about clothing? Have you been able to access any clothing yet?
Um, some things I just whatever I had in my car. Everything was lost in the explosion that I didn't have. But we did make a quick trip to Walmart and Target and stuff to get a few basic items. So I have a few things here. I have enough outfits to change into comfortably.
Okay. So you're okay for the next day or two, is what
Yeah.
I'm hearing? Okay. We're going to talk about some resources and maybe some other things that might be helpful here in a little while to help with some of that. And you feel like you have a safe place to rest. You have a room of your own. You feel like the hotel you said is safe and you're comfortable there, right? Okay. Carrie, I want to ask you about something important. I saw in your intake form that you're in recovery. And first of all, congratulations on your hard work. That takes a lot of effort and real strength. Do you, are you on any medications for anything related to your recovery or anything else, that you might not have access to right now?
Um, yes, I am. And I am a little worried about being able to get a hold of those medications.
Okay. So those medications were potentially or probably lost in the fire and the explosion. Okay. Have you been able to connect with any of your supports that you've been working with since you've been home, like a sponsor or recovery friends or your medication prescriber? Have you touched base with any of them lately?
I have been able today to get a hold of my sponsor.
Okay, wonderful. Were you able to share with her what has happened?
Yeah, I let her know what happened and, just how upset and stressed we all are. And I'm a little bit worried about that for myself. So, and she's aware of the situation too.
Okay. So what I hear is some worry, some stress overall about what's going to happen, how to reclaim some of these things that are now gone. Is that right?
hmm
Okay. Um, physically, is there anything going on physically that you're concerned about right now? Were you injured at all?
I wasn't home at the time of the explosion, thankfully. So physically I feel fine, but the stress made it a little difficult to sleep at night. And so I am a little tired and a little worn out just by everything that's been going on.
Okay. So some worry, some stress, some difficulty sleeping. Is that what I heard?
hmm Correct.
Okay. You know, a lot of these things that you're bringing up can be quite common in somebody who's experienced the kind of event that you just had. And I want you to know that, although these things are really concerning, I have a few things that we can talk about here in a moment that may be helpful if you want to try them out. There's some other things that we can go over to talk about ways to support your recovery because what you've already gone through before this event was a lot. And I want to see you continue to do well and stay sober and give you the tools to continue to succeed because you've already put in so much work.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the things that you mentioned was having this worry, this stress, this kind of unknown of what's going to happen, where are we going to live? Is there any other thoughts like that you're having right now?
Um, I am worried about our dog. We haven't seen him since the explosion. We don't know if he died in the house when it caught on fire or if he ran away. And I am worried if we find somewhere new to live, are we going to be able to find him and bring him with us?
Okay. Tell me about your dog.
He's a golden retriever. His name is Max. He's like my best friend. I love our dog. And he was home. He was in the house, I guess, when everything happened. And nobody's been able to see or find him since they went in and were able to put out the fire.
Really sorry to hear that. It sounds like you really care about Max a whole lot, and we're really close to him.
He's my best friend, and he's been a really big part of my recovery process and really helpful. And it's nice to come home to like his comfort, and it's been helping keep me going.
So with you not only not being home, you're in a different living environment and having some of these stressors without really knowing where Max is and if he's safe or not. Is that impacting your feelings at all? How's that emotionally impacting you?
Definitely been really upset, and it's making me feel very unsure and uncertain of a lot of things. And it is making me scared because he was such a big and important part of my life and my recovery that I do get scared about what's going to happen now with all this instability and all this change.
I think what you're saying is completely reasonable. You know, you have a lot going on, and I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and everything that's going on with you right now. I have to be honest, I hear you um, expressing a lot of concern and worry. And I wonder if sometimes that might not trigger some anxiety inside.
I definitely do feel some anxiety about it. And then on top of that, I do feel a little bit guilty about how worried I am about my dog. I mean, I'm thankful my family's all okay and they're all safe, so I'm not as worried about them because they all got out, but I do feel bad that I'm not as worried about them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to me. So you feel a little guilty that you're worried more about your dog than your family right now. Yeah. One of the things that I always like to use is a metaphor. Do you know what a metaphor is? When some of these abstract thoughts, kind of we make it reality. So, um, I want to talk to you about grounding for a minute. And here's why. Because sometimes when we worry not too much, but when we worry about things that are usually maybe out of our control or things that are in the future that haven't happened yet, like knowing where Max is, how to find Max, right? That can set off a lot of alarms inside. And so by bringing our attention right to the present moment and what's happening right here, right now, what do we have control over in this moment? Sometimes it can calm some of that feeling down. And so then we can focus and think a little bit more clearly at times. I'm wondering if you'd be open to practicing an activity with me that might help you bring your focus back into this present moment so that when you feel these sensations of worry or anxiety or thinking about things that get too big, you can use this exercise to help bring you down to the present moment and feel more calm.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Okay. Um, so this is a simple breathing exercise. You can do it pretty much anytime and anywhere. I wouldn't recommend it while you're driving, but like for instance, right now, if you're sitting and it works even better when you have a quiet place. But even if it's busy, I've used it in busy situations, and um, it can help calm your heart rate and your breathing and pull your body into a moment of concentration. So here's all you need to do. You're sitting in a seat, yeah? Okay. I want you to put your feet flat on the floor if they're not there already.
Okay.
Okay. And just go ahead and sit like you are now, but feel free to relax if you'd like. And I just want you to take a deep breath in through your mouth, and we're going to hold it for 4 counts. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4. We're going to do this one more time, but this time I want you to try and breathe in through your nose at the count of 4, okay? And I'll count with you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Out through your mouth. 3, 4. Go ahead and breathe normally for a few seconds. We're going to do this just one more time. So we're going to breathe in slowly through our nose. Hold it. and out through your mouth. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and tell me how you feel. Was that helpful at all? How do you feel right now?
That was very helpful. I feel like it definitely quieted my mind and helped me calm down quite a lot.
Okay. So this is just one of many different techniques. If you'd like some more, I can make sure I can give you a website to check out some more. You can also find some of these online pretty easily too. But anytime that you feel your thoughts maybe racing or you're looking ahead to the future with a lot of uncertainty, or maybe you're thinking about the past and feeling, maybe some of these guilty thoughts and feelings, you can try this exercise and it might help you bring it back to the present and focus on what's going on right here and now. Okay, you're doing great, Carrie. I really appreciate you sharing and participating in these activities and giving some feedback here. I want to take a moment and shift our conversation if that's okay. And I'm wondering, can you tell me what's been most difficult for you since the explosion?
I think the part that's most difficult is the uncertainty and not really knowing. I'm very fortunate to have my family around me, but we still don't know what's going to happen next, where we're going to live, where we're going to how life is going to continue forward. And for me, especially, that's very stressful just with my situation. And I'm in a position where I really need stability right now. And so now to be without it, there's even more uncertainties in my life than there were before.
Okay, so we hear a lot about a living situation. Where are we gonna go? Where are we gonna live? I heard you mention some need for stability too. So perhaps some need for supports for your recovery. Okay. Um, what about some any of your basic needs? I know that we mentioned clothing. Um, and you said that you've been able to get meals and stuff so far. Do you feel like you have hygiene items, um, things of that nature?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the hotel has like the mini stuff, and we did go to the CVS around the corner and I got a toothbrush and things, but there are certain things that I had at home that I just liked that brought me comfort, and now I don't have those items anymore.
Okay. Um, can you tell me a little bit about your family and how they might be coping right now as well?
Yeah, I can tell that my parents are really stressed right now because they're the ones who have to figure everything out. Um, and my brother, I can tell he's also scared just as much as I am. He's also worried about our dog. And I mean, our whole family is, but me and my brother especially, we grew up with that dog for the most part. He was 8 years old, so for the last 8 years we've had him. And yeah, since my brother was what, I don't even know, 11.
Mhm.
So,
Long time.
so we're both very scared and nervous about that. And I can tell that my parents are also really stressed out and they're worried about my brother and I. And so I also don't want to put any extra stress on them right now either. And I don't really know how to handle that.
Okay. So I want you to know that being upset about Max doesn't mean that you don't care about other things. Our pets are family, and it makes complete sense that you're worried about him. And I think many people in your situation would have those same feelings. Um, so I just want to recap here that some of your major concerns that you talked about were Max, knowing where you're going to be living and having some recovery supports available to you.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So one of the things that I think I would like to go to next is to maybe figure out what feels most urgent to address right now. And it sounds like you've really spelled that out for us here. And so staying connected, um, finding out about Max, and maybe starting to explore where you're going to live next. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk real quick about recovery support access. You said that you have a sponsor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you've talked to them lately, you've mentioned.
Uh-huh. Today.
Okay, wonderful. So you have their contact information and a way to connect with them?
Hmm.
Okay. What are some other things that you think might be helpful for us to go over right now to give you support in that area? For instance, do you have a list of meetings where you're staying at that are nearby to you?
Yeah, but this hotel is a little bit further away, so now I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to them. And my car and one other car were the only two cars that we were able to get out. And we each have jobs, my parents, my brother, and I. So now I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to those meetings because somebody might need my car to go to work. So now I'm worried about accessing my meetings.
Okay. So we can print out a list of meetings and it'll show how close they are in proximity to you. In fact, usually in the area, I know the area where you're staying, there's some that are within walking distance from where you're at. So, we can identify some of those meetings that are closer to you so that if a car is not available, perhaps you could walk to them. The other thing that I would urge you to do is what who are maybe three supports that are in your sober social circle? Like maybe your sponsor might be one of those.
Yeah, I
Um,
would say my sponsor and my mom and my dad.
okay. So, when we lean on these people for additional support, like maybe calling your sponsor and saying, "Hey, there's a meeting that I really would like to get to, and unfortunately, transportation is a little tough right now." Perhaps they might be willing to come and pick you up or help you connect with some other folks for a ride. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and write this down as an option because what I'd like to do is send you with a plan after this today. Okay. Okay. One of the other concerns that you mentioned was finding Max, right? Okay. So I know you're very worried about him, and I'm wondering, have you or any of your family members considered filing a lost pet report?
I know that my brother posted something online on social media, but I think that's as far as we've gone so far.
That's great. That's a wonderful start. And I think having that post up, it might be one of the best ways to get the word out that he's missing. I'm going to give you some numbers of the local shelters. And I want you to, if you have time, usually calling them like twice a day can be helpful to see if anyone has turned him in or had any sightings. And then, are you able to keep an eye on that post of your brother's to see if anyone comments on it?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe checking that like once or twice a day as well. Okay. And then one of the other things that you mentioned was, knowing where you're going to be living, right? Finding a new place to live and settling all of that. And while that isn't necessarily something that we can do immediately, I am going to give you some resources through the Red Cross that can help with sustaining any stays like at the hotel or any other supports until you guys are able to come up with a more solid plan from here. Okay. And most importantly, I'm going to give you my phone number so that if anything comes up throughout the daytime, I'm available regular business hours during the day. And I'm also going to leave you the phone number here for the local crisis line. And that number is available to you 24/7. So if you ever feel yourself having any kind of emotional crisis or thoughts of suicide or thoughts of harming someone else, you can call that number anytime. But even if you're just having a really rough day, they're there for you too, um, in case you can't get a hold of anyone else or just feel safer talking with them. Okay. Do you have any other questions or concerns that you think I can help with for right now?
No, I think I feel a lot better after this session with you. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you being honest and open, and your strength is really shining through. It shows that you're caring. You care about your family and most certainly about Max. And I really wish all of the best for you. And I'm here if you can think of any other thing that I can be helpful for, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that was a great job. It didn't feel rushed. It felt natural. And I can't tell you how many times with the Red Cross, one of the main concerns was a pet. And so this happens a lot. Um, the other thing was, uh, you know, addiction and sobriety. And this is one of the times if somebody is in recovery, it adds a lot of stress, which could be a trigger. And, it's good to get them to meetings and find them support in the community as well. Give them some quick feedback or insights or anything, and then we'll move on to the feedback video. Any thoughts? Any reactions?
I really liked the tone of voice that they used throughout the whole video. Like it was very like engaged and calm at the same time, which I mean for a role play that's really hard to do. So
Yeah.
I liked it.
The
All
only thing I
right.
noticed at
Go
the
ahead.
start, that caught my attention, was there was only one time that I caught that there was like a double question and the client only answered like I don't know how to explain it. It was like it wasn't a leading question. It was just I think she was asking like a how are you question or something, but also then asked something else or something like that. And that at least something that caught my attention. But like it wasn't even that big of a deal because it she ended up answering it again like a little bit later. If that makes any sense. Overall, I loved it. So
All right. I'm just looking up this next link. All right. So this link is about, when you needed to discuss how the interview went. And so it's about a different interview, but I think you'll be able to follow it just fine. And we might not watch the entire thing, but you'll get the idea.
Hey, so after watching our videos, so this is like the reflection part, and as we talked, like we could go like question by questions and like give us feedback to each other. So the first one is like the skills that were easy for us to demonstrate. So I think on your side, you contacted and engaged with ease with the client. You were able to explain your role, who you were, and like addressing the confidentiality. Also, as client, I felt like safe and that like my basic needs, like you asked for my basic needs, making sure they were covered. Also, you were gathering information, like things that I didn't share on my own. Like you asked me questions about like the immediate concerns, the needs and priorities to make sure I had enough like you had enough information about what I was struggling with. And you provided also practical assistance, connecting with the client, offering collaborative services, and encouraging like reconnection with my social support, which was like my family.
Okay. Good to hear, because I constantly am worrying about that, but I guess that my actual practical experience in field has been working. So at least there's that.
Yeah.
So in terms of my perspective, I definitely believe that you were able to provide a lot of empathy, concern, and compassion, as well as prioritization of the client's focal concerns, and also any other emotions or like worries that like branched off from the focus topic that was discussed. You also easily remained calm and focused to understand and gather like finer details to get the whole picture, to identify like root causes pertaining to the client and their main concerns. You also gave really good full attention and focus along with silence during the times when the client was speaking, which allowed for full explanation for their lived experiences and providing support and kindness for building up self-esteem, making the client feel seen and heard, and also creating the resilience of anything that they've overcome in their past. You were also able to provide proper flow of conversation to get to all areas of the focus, which was the psychological first aid model, and also to make sure that the client was able to gain resources and also support along with creating potentially for creating goals, and also essentially like focusing on the homework, which was after discussing like resources and stuff, you were like, does this sound good? Like, is this a good plan to go forward with? Which you accommodated for like giving their opinion a voice, which is also really a positive, I believe. And I also felt that you were really good in building up self-esteem, especially with the one moment where you congratulated them about the GED. I felt like that was a really raw moment that maybe the client hadn't even considered as like a successful win. So you did like the little tiny areas were able to provide a little bit more like humanity to it. And I think that is like focal in certain areas when you are working with clients, to not be too clinical, because like providing that like empathy and like warmth can really allow the client to feel safe. And because of that, I think that if I was this actual client, I would have felt safe, and I felt like I could have just, kept like talking about things and like moving towards like understanding how things were able to like connect in certain areas. So
Thank you. Thank you for hearing that, because that's one of my, I guess, main concerns or goals. Because when we get into forms and things that we should do, we can kind of disconnect from that humanity part. So I guess it shows my focus and my style, I guess, the style that I'm starting to develop. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, now the next one is like the skills that were difficult to demonstrate. So on my part, what I observed when I was like interview and like getting the information, it got like, I felt it got a little bit too personal when addressing the trauma, the generational trauma. Like I'm looking at it like being in the position of a client, right? So we have this knowledge in our heads about where it's coming from, but they don't. So there was one question, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, and even with the knowledge that we are acquiring, it was like kind of hard. And even though we are like doing a mock session, it was kind of hard to respond. So being in that position from the client, I guess sometimes we need to be mindful of like where they're coming from. So that was kind of like the only, and since this was like the first aid session, so we probably don't want to go too deep into like the trauma that they're carrying from. That was like the only thing that I could pick up from everything.
Okay, well, yeah, I can totally see like where you're coming from, and I definitely think one of the hard, and I've had this conversation actually at my site with like other interns and stuff, and also my site supervisor. So I think one of the hardest things to understand properly is how to broach a situation where you're trying to like gather finer details and also being heavily concerned about someone's culture or someone's like past experiences and how that can come off as a little bit too intense for the client. And then also, like, from the therapist perspective, it's like you're just trying to understand more of the picture in order to, like, basically what I was doing in that situation was I was trying to identify past experiences for the client so then I can understand in terms of, like, is this, like, past experience or this past thing currently affecting them in current time? Because as we both know with like trauma and also past experiences, they can come up in subtle and unconscious ways in current like issues that they're dealing with. So that's essentially what I was trying to like probe for in a way of not probing, but I guess it didn't come off that way. So definitely wording is something that I am still practicing and something that I do need to work on. But I'm glad that there was only one instance of that instead of like the entirety
Yeah.
of the thing. So
Yeah, no.
like I still need to work on like that area, which is really good to understand, and it's something that I'm currently working on trying to fix. I guess I just need to be wording things a little bit like in a more practical sense, I guess. Um, so at least there's that, but yeah, I had no intention of making the client
Oh no.
they feel like that and that's kind of I think why like right after the situation, if I remember correctly, I might have like said like if you're uncomfortable with sharing that, it is totally fine. We don't have to go into that. If there's any emotions coming up, please let me know. And I think I established that pretty much like at the beginning of the session as well, because I think it's very important for the client throughout the entirety of the session to be able to voice when they are struggling with discussing something and if they need time to just sit in silence or like they need to go to the bathroom or do they want a tissue or do they want to get some water just to help like continue getting through the entirety of like the like initial session so then you can kind of gather all of the information that you need. So, noting that like is good to understand, but yeah, I totally understand where that could come off as like totally a little bit too like invasive or anything. I think I just need to work on how I'm wording my asking questions because
Well, we're learning. We're learning.
yeah, so exactly. Yeah. But at least it only happened one time. So like, hey,
Yeah.
that's a good check in my book in terms of developing. So,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So let's see. What did I say? Okay, so I said that students struggled with baseline structures for therapeutic sessions. So, pretty much like going in I don't like the first and foremost thing I always take back from group therapy is always establishing baseline focuses. So that's like client confidentiality, providing practical aid, such as like establishing, letting them know, like, you know, if you need to take a break, you need water, like tissues, like just immediately like tell me, and then we can like allow for like time for the client because they like are there for usually mock like in like first sessions are at least like an hour, so like you have time for the client to stop or like take a break if the somehow like through that a lot of like traumatic stuff comes up just because they were able to pinpoint something. Also allowing for client to actually no, I think that was mainly it in terms of like that. Then let's see. I think you also struggled a tiny bit with providing like quick responses to the client's lived experiences. So like during the times that the client really um like talked about like the past trauma and stuff, you were a tiny little bit dismissive, but it was more so in
Right. And they did this with every question. I just felt like it was a real discussion, like it was real helpful feedback on both their parts. Um, and I mean, did you two feel that way? I thought it was legit.
I just think I talked too much.
Eh, I mean, it's better than just skimming the surface and saying, "Oh, you did a good job," I mean, I think it's if you're going to do something like this, you might as well get feedback that you can learn from, and that's what I saw. So, and then they went through each of the questions on the forms uh, from the syllabus. So I thought that was pretty good. So we saw an example of the paperwork, saw an example of one of the uh, interviews. We saw an example of the feedback and discussing the interview and role play. And I just wanted to give you a variety. So we saw three different ones. And but I do want to take time to answer any questions. If anybody got my feedback and was wondering about any of it, I want to, help you out. If you need to resubmit something or do something differently, does anybody have any questions or concerns about any part of this assignment that we can talk about? All right, I'll take that as a no. But uh, yeah, so there's an actual lecture online about, a chapter in the book that I'd like everybody to watch. And then there's an activity with therapeutic yoga. So there you go. All right. Any questions about where we're at or um, I don't think there's any discussion board for this week. I deleted that from the syllabus. All right. If there's no other questions or comments, we'll call it a wrap tonight. We'll see y'all later.
Thank you.
Bye.